I know the frustration. There have been days where I haven't eaten properly because of lack of vegetarian food, and it has left me feeling tired and low on energy. Eventually, I managed to survive as a vegetarian. In this video, I'll share tips to find vegetarian food no matter where you're traveling around the world. Let's go. This might be obvious, but you can always find vegetarian food in Indian restaurants, and this is why a lot of Indians frequent Indian restaurants when they're traveling abroad, because it's a sure short way of finding vegetarian food. But you don't always have to go to an Indian restaurant. This is something that I found out when I was in Lisbon. It's so hard to find vegetarian food there, and when I searched online, I found a few places which have vegetarian food, and one of them was an Israeli restaurant. Then I realized, okay, Middle Eastern food like hummus, pita bread and falafel are usually primarily vegetarian. Chances are if you go to a Middle Eastern restaurant, you will find vegetarian food there, so that's also an option. And these are some of the dishes which are primarily vegetarian: stir-fried veggies, pizza, there's always margarita, bread, butter, cheese, soups like potato leek soup, pumpkin soups and salads. If you're traveling to places where vegetarian food is not so common, then Happy Cow app can be a lifesaver. So when I was in Tashkent, I just opened the Happy Cow app, typed in the location, and it gave me a list of restaurants, and that's how I found this place called Fawn Lebanon, which is a Lebanese restaurant, and I found a lot of vegetarian options there, and I frequented there. Actually, I went there 3 times because when you find a vegetarian restaurant in these places, you kind of stick to it. And sometimes it may be hard to even understand what's on the menu because it's not in English or in a language that you understand. So you can always translate it using Google Lens or Google Translate app, and be open to trying new experiences and maybe local vegetarian dishes as well. Some vegetarian dishes may not be labeled as such, but make sure to ask if they contain any meat or animal products. Ask about the ingredients. For example, in Kyrgyzstan, there is this dish called ashlanfu, which primarily originated in China, and it was a blend of spices. Like, I was completely surprised by it because I think in my 2.5 months of traveling in Central Asia, that is close to the Indian spices that we eat. Like, it has more than one spices. This is not a foolproof option, but you can always walk into a restaurant and ask for no meat option. Try to find how to say no meat in the local language. This can be quite advantageous. Also mention that you don't eat chicken or egg, because sometimes in some parts of the world these also might be considered vegetarian, so you might have to make it clear. So for example, when I was in Kyrgyzstan, I asked for bez myasa, which means without meat in Russian, and pretty much everywhere, like every restaurant I walked into, I have mostly found success with this option. Most often than not, the locals are willing to make a no meat option even when it's not on the menu, and this usually works in not so busy restaurants. But there have also been times when I had to settle for soups or salads because there was nothing else vegetarian on the menu. Homestays are usually family-owned businesses, and they give special care and attention to their guests. You can request your local host to make a vegetarian version of the local food. Inform them well in advance about your dietary requirements so they can also be well prepared, and you might find some creative ways of making local food. This way you can also support local businesses. Local markets are a great place to find vegetarian options. You can find a variety of fresh fruits, dry fruits, vegetables, spices. You can also find local street food vendors who serve vegetarian dishes. For example, when I was in Lampang, which is a small town in northern Thailand, I was surprised to find vegetarian street food. This is not even a tourist town, and I found a lot of vegetarian options there. When I go to the local markets, I try to fill up my snack box, which has like a lot of dry fruits like peanuts, almonds, chickpeas, raisins, and also maybe add some chocolates. This is something I found out when I was in Central Asia through a fellow traveler. And this is so useful because sometimes you may not be able to eat on time. So when you're walking around or just going from one place to another, having a snack box is so handy, and it can help you reduce your hunger cravings. All you have to do for this is just carry an empty container from home, and you can fill it up from the local markets, because that is reasonable, budget friendly, and also quite healthy if you choose the right option. And sometimes when you're in restaurants or just had breakfast from the hotel, you may have some extra food that you can carry in these snack boxes, which you can maybe eat later. Along with something from the local markets, you can buy some food from the supermarkets as well, like yogurt, instant noodles, meal packs, or salads. So if there are no other vegetarian option available and you're not able to find food as per your dietary requirements, then you can always fix a meal yourself. Buy groceries from the local markets or the supermarkets and fix up a meal. To name a few, these are some of the easier dishes that you can try when you're in a different country. Pasta, vegetable rice, sandwich, cereals, accommodations like Airbnb, service apartments, or hostels, something with kitchen facilities, preferable in this case if you are trying to make food yourself. And sometimes they already have basic stuff in the kitchen like maybe salt, sugar, oil. Then you don't really have to buy every small thing yourself. For example, when I was in Croatia, I was in the small place near Plitvice National Park. Till then, I tried to manage without making food myself because that's how lazy I am. But at that point of time, I realized it was too much. Like eating out in Europe all the time can be quite expensive, especially when you're traveling for long term. So then I went to the supermarket and I brought milk and cereal and some fruits and dry fruits, and kind of made a cereal breakfast for the morning, which is quite easy to begin with, and I don't really have to spend much time. I have cereals with me, which I can carry from one place to another, but milk not so much when I open it. So only if I'm in a place for like 2 to 3 days, then I kind of buy a milk packet, and that is usually my breakfast in case breakfast option is not available in the place that I'm visiting. Another option is to carry ready to eat meals if you really miss home food. When I was traveling in Central Asia, I knew that I had to carry some ready to eat meals because first of all, it's hard to find vegetarian food there, and at the same time I knew I might miss like Indian spices. Especially for 2-3 months, it was gonna be hard. So I managed to carry a few ready-to-eat meals like bisibele bath, some chana masala. I remember the first time that I ate bisibele bath after probably like 1.5 months of traveling. And it was like a rush of spices, It was so obvious that I was eating bland food for that long. When I was in Tajikistan, for 2 weeks. It was really the most difficult place that I've been to as a vegetarian. There was literally 4 vegetables that I ate in that 4 weeks. Like I couldn't find anything else. Onions, tomatoes, cucumber, and potatoes. Like that's all that I could find in those 2 weeks, honestly. There wasn't any option for some reason. So yeah, sometimes it can be really tricky. And in that place, eating ready-to-eat food is like such a pleasure. Because of the veganism wave, it might be easier than before to find vegetarian food, especially in like Western Europe or US. You can do a little bit of research before to find out if there are any vegetarian food in places that you're visiting, and this might help you be more prepared. And one of the countries that really surprised me was Italy. Like I found vegetarian food much easier compared to other places in Europe. Even like in pizzas, I found at least a bunch of vegetarian pizzas when I was traveling, which was quite surprising to me. So I think it was one of the easiest countries that I've traveled to as a vegetarian. I did not really have to bother so much using all these options because it was right away available. Italy food is so good, like it's like going on a gastronomical adventure. I hope this video helped you in some way, and I hope you have more options when you're traveling around the world as a vegetarian. So if you like this video, then don't forget to subscribe and of course like this video, and I'll see you in the next video.